أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين صلوا على محمد. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا خيرة خلق الله ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا علي بن أبي طالب ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام على الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة ورحمة الله وبركاته. Together inshallah we send our salams and salutations to Abu Abdullah al-Hussain and his ashab. Assalamu ala al-Hussain وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على التسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين عليهم السلام. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Sisters and brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We have been looking in the last two lectures about the community, especially in the first lecture where we looked at the real Hussaini community. And we found that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will collectively make the believers in a community accountable for what they have done and what they have not done. Yes? And yesterday we talked about practical gratitude and how we all together should practice practical gratitude, and gave an understanding, a comprehensive understanding from the Holy Quran about what is gratitude. Today, my brothers and sisters, we're going to talk about something extremely important, which is the rise of the far right. I chose this topic because of the fact that the far right, who we will define inshallah, are in fact on the rise. And what is our role in this community? What should we actually do in the community to counter this rise of the far right? The questions we will ask today inshallah is: number one, who are the far right? Number two, are the far rights a threat to us as Muslims in the UK, in Manchester? And are the far right on the rise or not? And if they are a threat also to Muslims, then what is our role? How can we counter the far right? And remember, my brothers and sisters, we started this lecture series where we're looking at the challenges faced by the community in the 21st century, where we said, and I continuously emphasize this, that this is a collective responsibility. So don't just listen to this lecture and go back home and say, well, someone else will deal with the far right. Yeah? It's not really my business. I've got something else to do. I've got something else to worry about. No, it's my responsibility and it's your responsibility to protect the community from the acts of the far right. Yes? So inshallah we will start this discovery into the far right with a very loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So to start off with, do you recognize this mosque? This is a mosque in New Zealand, in Christchurch. where an individual who we will name later, but I don't want to repeat his name because it's not good in a majlis, right? I'll just say it once for the sake of saying it later on, inshallah. But an individual who was a member of the far-right political parties, he went and stormed into this mosque during Jum'ah prayers in Christchurch in New Zealand and started shooting those individuals, those mu'mineen who were praying. And these are some of the people who were killed during that time. And as you can see, there are individuals who are quite young at age and quite old and women. And so he didn't discriminate against any sort of person, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're black, white, you're a woman or you're a man. Then he did not discriminate. He just shot randomly at those individuals. The main thing in common that they had was what? Was that those individuals were Muslims. Yes? Also, we know that the crime committed by the far right include this individual called an MP called Joe Cox, who was murdered a few years back in the streets of Leeds by an individual who was also a member of the far right. This individual, a neo-Nazi, he planned to murder a Labour MP, and he was also jailed for life. And this individual who drove his van and killed one person, one mu'min who came out of Salat al-Layl or Tahajjud, as they have during the holy month of Ramadan, and he was also part of the right-wing movement. So they've committed crimes, and this is all not breaking news for anyone, right? They've committed a lot of crimes. And so the first question we like to ask, my brothers and sisters, is who are the far right? So to understand the far right, we got to understand this left and right spectrum. You know, when you listen to the news, they say this person is from the left, central left, and left to far left, and far right, and central right, and all these things that confuse you, all these jargons, right? And for us to understand the far right, we're going to understand what is going on with left and right. Who's right, who's wrong? Yeah? Right with a R-I-G-H-T, yeah? Who's right and who's left? Yeah? And so first let's understand this. So the sources in Wikipedia, right, will tell you that the term left and right appeared during the French Revolution of 1789. When members of the National Assembly, they divided into supporters of the king to the president's right and supporters of the revolution to his left. So they split them, you know, whoever's with the president and whoever's with the supporters of the revolution, you're on the left, and you're with the president, you're on the right, yeah? So they divided the two. And from then, it was a long history. I mean, this is not a history lesson or politics lesson. So, I mean, you can go and read more about it, but this is where they think it started, this left and right thing, where you actually support a particular movement, you go to the left, and you support another ideology, another political movement where you go to the right. Yeah? So they split them. Then it started to evolve and is now used in political ideologies. Yeah? And you know, here in the UK, we have the Labour Party, who are considered, what, left? And we have the Conservatives, who are considered as the right. And some people will say, well, Blairism was sort of centre-left, and Corbyn is sort of a bit further to the left, and you know, all these left and right things like that. It all came from this, and people started to really understand which particular ideology this political party followed by actually telling them this is the left and this is the right and this is the political spectrum. Yeah? So this is the left versus right political spectrum. So you can see here, we start from the far left. You've got communism, right, which is the far left. And some people actually say that, you know, Corbyn has this particular ideology. Someone's shaking his head. I'm not going to discuss politics here, but some people say that, you know, that's his, you know, he's on the far left. Yeah, people just label things, right? Then you've got the left, who are socialists. You've got social democracy, progressivism, centre left, right? And then You've got these liberals, yeah, where they say free everything, yeah, free speech and free everything, just do free of everything, right? And this is the liberal Democrats. They usually, you can see the left are usually labeled with the red color, so they're more of red. And here in the middle, you got the center, the liberals, you got sort of a bit the yellow, it gets a bit orangey there. And then it sort of moves towards blue, which is conservatism, right? As you know, this is a Conservative Party logo, and they are blue here. So they are more to the right of the political spectrum. So they're more conservative, right, in their ideology. Whereas here, the final sort of ideology you have is the far right, yeah? It's the extreme right, where they're nationalism, fascism, racism, and all that, yeah? These are the sort of ideologies, and we'll go more into that, inshallah. So the next question is, are those individuals, the far right, are they a threat to Muslims? Because, we've just, showed a diagram where it just says that they are the far right, right? And they're fascists, they're nationalists, etc. But does that mean that they're a threat to us, you and me? Are they a threat to Muslims in Manchester? Are they a threat to Muslims in the UK? So this is the man. He was called Brenton Tarrant. He was this individual who drove up to that particular mosque in Christchurch and started shooting people. But what's interesting about, if you analyze this person's life, he wrote a 74-page manifesto. Yeah, he's actually not one of those people who doesn't know how to read and write and is very emotional and all that. This guy's, I wouldn't say he's intellectual, but this guy wrote 74-page manifesto. Maybe the font size was like 15, 20, or not that amazing. But still, he wrote a 74-page manifesto, which basically describes how Europe is important. This is sort of the summary of the manifesto. He really emphasized about the importance of Europe and its history. And what he was actually quite obsessed with was that the Muslims are going to take over Europe. And the manifesto, the center idea of something called the Great Replacement, a claim that European people are being replaced by Muslims. And you hear that a lot. This is what they're afraid of. If you want to go to sleep from now on, you can, because this is the gist of what the far right are about, yeah? The far right are about, basically you Muslims, you taking over our land, and you should get out of here, go back to your country. Yeah, you've heard of those things before, yeah? So this is what they say, they against immigration. This is why the rise of UKIP and then the fall of UKIP and now the Brexit party and all that Brexit stuff going on. It's mainly about immigration, isn't it? And that's the main argument here. And this is where the far right have come in and said, look, we share the same ideology here. You saying get rid of the immigrants, get rid of the Muslims. Yeah, this is what we're saying as well. So this is why this is what's called populism. This is why they're now becoming more and more popular. If you see this particular diagram, it shows the percentage of Muslims among total population in each country. Yeah, so you can see here in the UK, we're only 6.3% of the population. Yeah, I mean, that's not that much. All that talk about Muslims and all that. We're only 6.3%. I mean, this was in 2016. Maybe now it's probably 6.5. Some people have had more babies, right? But this is only probably around 6.5, right? But you can see in Europe, the highest is France, 8.8. That's the highest it can get. Although Cyprus, if you want to, count Cyprus, but that's because they're 25.4% Muslims. It's because they also border Turkey as well. Yeah. But you can see here, Sweden 8.1, Denmark, Netherlands. But what's important is that this guy was obsessed with this country called Austria, 6.9%. Okay. And he was really obsessed with Austria. He's tried to explain about this history of Austria in his manifesto. And a tweet days before the Christchurch attack, he included a reference to Vienna 1683. Yeah, and this was the year the advancement of the Ottoman forces, and they were stopped just before they get into to Vienna. Okay, and they were stopped by the Romans, and there was like a huge fight, as you can see here. It was like a massive fight where the Ottomans wanted to get into Vienna, and the Romans said, no, you're not getting in, mate. So they were just like killing them, and there was a war, a battle, and all that. And he was saying, like, it's not right, because this is going to happen again. The Muslims are going to come and storm into Vienna, storm into Europe, right? And they're going to come and conquer Europe again. And look at the rise of the Muslims all over the world. I'm not having that. That's the mentality. Yeah? So then Austria, I don't know if you know about Austria. Austria is actually, their government is quite a far-right government, right? And so this is, for example, they shut down 7 political mosques and expel imams. Okay, this is part of their activities to try to get rid of Muslims in Austria. And to be quite honest with you, the stats are alarming. When you do look at, it's not just Austria, okay, which is the problem. Here in the UK, we've got a lot of people like that guy who actually think the same and are very much capable of doing what he did in Christchurch. Okay? And I'm going to tell you this honestly and truly. This is what many people will, in fact, love to do. And I'll show you some evidence for that. Okay? So, and then we'll talk about, inshallah, what is our role, inshallah, regarding this issue. But the stats are alarming. It's showing the rise of hatred against Muslims in the UK. So I'm going to give you some stats, which are important stats. And again, hey, I don't want to do scaremongering. I'm here to make the community aware. Shake the community and tell them, look, we don't want, la samahallah, God forbid, for something to happen and then say, yes, oh yeah, we should have done this, or we should have done that. We should be proactive, and we'll talk about being proactive, yes? We don't want to wait until the moment when Christchurch happens in Manchester, la samahallah, and then we'll say, oh yeah, we should have done this. Yeah? So I'm not trying to do scaremongering, I'm trying to lay out the facts here. And, so we can come up with a strategy to protect ourselves and our communities, inshallah. So 18% believe the Muslim immigration to the UK is part of a bigger plan to make Muslims a majority of this country. They're obsessed with this. They're absolutely obsessed. But data has shown that we're nowhere near actually getting to be the majority in the UK. As we said, 6.8%. We're only 6.8% or 6 point something percent, right? So it's quite ridiculous to actually state that. 32% of Britons believe that there are no-go areas in Britain. Remember when they, in Fox News, they said, that Birmingham is a no-go area for non-Muslims. If you go there, something happens to you and stuff. So people believe that. In America as well, people believe that. And here in Britain, people believe that. 32% say there's no-go areas where Sharia law dominates and non-Muslims cannot enter. 32%. You know what 32% is? It's like a third of the population of the UK. These are studies, you can go back to them. I have references for these things. YouGov, this is one of the highest, most recognized stats institutions, right? So this is a third of the UK population say, yeah, there are areas in the UK, you can't no-go areas, it's just Muslims, right? Lack of education. But this is by far, for me, the most alarming stat. 35% of Britons regard Islam, and this is earlier this year, by the way, as a threat to the British way of life. Did you know this? So a third, so if you take Tom, Dick and Harry in the streets of Cheadle, right? You take Tom, Dick and Harry. Probably Tom, one of these three will think that Britons, that will think Islam is a threat to their way of life. Yes, they might not tell you this at work, but they talk about it in their pubs. They talk about it in their homes. Yeah? We should know this. This is all stats. This is all real fact stats. If you want to go back to Hope Not Hate, right, who, by the way, were an organization, they are led by those people who were before from the far right, and now they've changed. Okay? And now they've done these studies and found out, yeah, a lot of them, they actually regard Islam as a threat to the British way of life. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Not good enough. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A bit more stats just to continue the stats mood that I have now. 22% had negative feelings towards Muslims. Okay, 33% believe that equal opportunities have gone too far when it comes to Muslims. 43% concerned if mosques were built near them. 43%. That's a lot. That's a lot of percent. Okay? 22% concerned if Muslim family move next door. They don't want you to move next door. 30% will object to their child visiting a mosque. That's why the MCB initiative of visiting a mosque is fantastic. We open our doors. And before when I was here, I said the same thing with this place as well. Open your doors. Maybe a lot of people around here, they want to know what's going on here in this place. Open your doors. There's nothing to hide. Let them come into our Muharram Majalis. Right? We should be welcoming. Why isn't the neighbors or people who are non-Muslims here sitting down here in this hall? Why not? 47% will not be willing to accept Muslims as members of their family. It's the worst figure in Western Europe after Italy. Yeah? A lot of stats. So we've established now who are the far right. We've also established that they are a threat to Muslims. We've given that. The next question is, are they actually growing? Should we really be concerned about the far right? Or are they just, a movement that is over-exaggerated, only a very few people, Nigel Farage and all those klawat, right? That we don't really need to take to think about. Let me give you more stats. An academic by the name of Joe Mulhall said far-right demonstrations had grown to sizes not seen since the 1930s. Yeah, this is in 2019. Not seen since the 1930s. Again, the far-right terrorism threat is growing, says MI5 and police chiefs. This is article not long ago in The Guardian. In 2017, 2018, 7,318 individuals were referred to Prevent, of whom 1,318% were referred for concerns related to right-wing extremism, from 16% in the previous year. Now, it's interesting, we should take just a pause for a second now and explain what Prevent is, because I think it's important that we all, as a community, understand the initiative of the projects that the government have been actually applying in the last few years, which is Prevent, which actually affects everyone here. Either if you're a teacher at school, or if you have kids, or if you're at work, or if you're a doctor, or if you work in hospitals or whatever, it actually does affect you. So let's try to just quickly understand this de-radicalization scheme, which is called Contest, right? It's a counter-terrorism strategy that aims to reduce the risk of terrorism in the UK. This whole thing, Contest, and one of them, they actually have 4 Ps. Contest is comprised of the 4 Ps. So they have prevent radicalization from the onset, prepare, another P for attacks, protect the public, and pursue the attackers, right? But the main thing that a lot of people talk about, and you might have heard about this in the news, called Prevent. Okay, so what is Prevent? Prevent is basically designed to stop people from supporting terrorism. Okay, it discourages those individuals just from the onset, so that make sure that before they actually go and perform the terrorist act, they stop them of becoming terrorists themselves. The de-radicalization scheme itself is called Channel. I know there's a lot of jargon in there, but what you need to know is Prevent and Channel. Prevent is designed to stop people supporting terrorism, and Channel is the program itself. Okay, the de-radicalization program, the UK de-radicalization program is called Channel. And you must have done, some of you, a course on Prevent, trying to find out if, teachers, for example, Once I gave a whole lecture on Prevent about, there have been cases where, students have been labeled wrongly, have been referred to Channel and Prevent for basically wearing a badge saying support Palestine. Yeah, someone who said maybe Allahu Akbar, they've been referred to Prevent because teachers don't know. Teachers have not been educated to actually know who's actually a potential terrorist and who's not. Okay, but this is actually now, being also applied to the far right. And if you go and read the documentation about Prevent, about Contest, about Channel, the UK official documentation, you'll find that they do also reference the far right quite a bit as well. Okay, so now that teachers also have to be aware that if someone actually is talking against Muslims, hopefully, and Islamophobia and something like that, they have to do what? They have to refer them to Prevent. Yeah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. So going back to the far right, of the 394 individuals who received Channel support, remember Channel's the de-radicalization scheme program, 179 or 45% were referred for concerns related to Islamic extremism, right? And 174 or 44% were referred for concerns related to right-wing extremism, right? So you can see they're very, very similar, aren't they? So 45% were referred to Islamic, so-called Islamic extremism, right? And a very similar percentage were referred to concerns relating to the right wing, yeah? And so it's nearly equal to the number of cases they get for all the Daesh supporting, terrorism that we find here. This is the BBC on the 23rd of March. Far-right terror poses biggest threat to the north of England. Sorry guys, you're north of England. Come to the south. Britain is dangerously fertile ground for the far-right. Yeah. And the failure of the far-right parties has made the country complacent about the threat it faces. Far-right terrorists are one step ahead of you in UK. This is a few days old. They're one step ahead of you. Yeah. Security service don't know where the threat is coming from, says charity Hope Not Hate. And these guys, they know the far right because they were amongst the far right before. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to mention Brexit. Brexit referendum. Aftermath sees rise in extremism. Yeah. There were more attacks after the Brexit referendum because those individuals, they have now gained momentum, didn't they? They gained a lot of momentum and they said, well, now we've got what we wanted, which is, Brexit and this is exactly what we want. We're against immigration. So therefore, we can do what we want now. Okay, so there was a right. So basically this gives you a fact that if you give them an opportunity, they will attack. Yes? Any opportunity you will see, they will attack. So they're not afraid of attacking. A few days ago, someone who's a journalist in The Guardian, some of you may know, called Owen Jones, who tweeted this. He got this message, and he usually gets a lot of tweets. He was in fact attacked physically because this guy, he's more to the left, and he's always very, he's always very much talking against the far right. So he got this. He says, as a supporter of the far right, this is a message from someone. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I hope you get a bullet to the brain. The far right is taking over all Europe slowly but surely. The numbers don't lie. And we are in charge. All you liberals and traitors are fake news journalists and dead meat, along with your families, and you will be first up against the wall. You'll just wait and see. It's quite chilling, isn't it? I mean, the reason why I put this is because I'm showing you that these people don't fear anything. If they get the opportunity, they'll do what happened in Christchurch. You just need one person to come and do it. That's it. Yeah? Firearms are available. And again, I'm not trying to scaremonger. Please understand what I'm doing here. I'm trying to make the community aware. I'm trying to raise awareness in the community. We all need to wake up. right? Yes, everyone's busy, these 4-letter words, wonderful 4-letter words, right? Sarcasm intended here, right? But what we've got to do is we've got to try to understand and ask ourselves this question: what are we actually doing about this? As a Hussaini community, who, the real Hussaini community, right? The Hussein who actually did fight against oppression. Shouldn't we actually rise up and nahi anil munkar? Remember we talked about amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar? There's so much munkar out there, and they're a threat to our way of life. What are we doing about it? Inshallah, we'll talk about roles. But the 3 clowns here, right? And you've got to understand that. I mean, these 2 clowns, they're running the world here. Yeah, you can say, okay, half the world, and they're very powerful people. But actually, every single one of us is also very powerful, because now the rise of social media we can use quite strongly, quite effectively, isn't it? Everyone has this weapon in their hand, which is what? Which is social media, which is Twitter, which is Facebook and stuff like that. And we can make sure that our voice is heard. There are individuals I know in London who by themselves they go and challenge newspapers. If there's an attack on Muslims on the newspapers, they challenge them, and the newspapers then apologize. They come out and say, yeah, we were wrong. We were wrong with this particular title. Okay, so it's doable. It's actually doable. It's not that I can sit at home and do nothing and say, well, I can't do anything. No, yes, you can. Of course you can. Okay, if you're a real Hussaini in this spirit of Muharram, in the spirit of Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam, we've got to be conscious that we are under threat. We've got to rise against this threat. Anyway, enough of the clowns. What are their tactics? We've got to understand their tactics. If we are going to try to combat this particular ideology, and I don't at all mean combat militarily, okay? So let's get this straight. Anyone who's watching this from the MI5, I don't mean combat militarily, yeah? I mean, inshallah, we combat it with the tools that we have at the moment. We'll talk about this more, inshallah, mainly the social media, but we'll talk about this. But we're going to understand their tactics so that we can make sure we can do what? We can attack them in the best possible way. So let's think about their tactics. What are their tactics? This person from Institute of Strategic Dialogue Research has found parallels between online, this is really interesting, online jihadists, so-called jihadists, and I hate that word and I'll tell you why later on, groups, and those of the far right in their tactics in social media. They're finding a trend. Now the right wing are thinking, how did Daesh and ISIS have become so successful? Because they were very, very strategic in the way that they use social media. So we're going to do the same. So there's been a lot of studies now to show that they're using very similar tactics to get into the youth, to try to convince people about their particular ideology. And these two are something to be aware of. Okay, as a community, you got to be aware of. These two are apps. Okay, this is called Gab and this is called 8chan. Right? This is a bit like Facebook and Twitter. This is their own Facebook and Twitter. They're actually out there. It says the right. These are the right wing Twitter places. That if they go to Twitter, Twitter will shut them down, shut these accounts down. But here they can talk freely between themselves. Okay. So 8chan and Gab, you got to be aware of these apps, and they're available. Okay. But the important thing is both. If you focus on both extremists, the Daesh extremists and the right wing, they both are looking for an identity, aren't they? Because they feel like they have this particular ideology, and the way to look for an identity is that they want more and more support to establish this identity. Yeah. So now the far right have this particular ideology. As we said, the Muslims are spreading in Europe. We got to stop that. Immigration, etc. We're against the Quran, against Islam, against all that. This ideology, for them to define themselves and they say, yes, this is my identity. I am someone who is what? From the far right, I am racist, I am fascist. I've got to establish this, I need support. How am I going to get this support? I'll see who's actually successful out there. And Daesh were successful in getting support, especially in Europe, right? Not now, a few years back. You know, this guy who went to Manchester and blew himself up in the concert, right? How did they get to him? I'm pretty sure through social media. So now we'll talk about what is the community's role. And this is the vital question, isn't it? What is our role towards all this? So we've established who are the far right. They're the fascist, right-wing, nationalists. We also established that they are a threat to Muslims. We've gave a lot of stats. We also established that they are on the rise. Yeah? But also then now we got to ask the question of what is our role? What is the community's role? I can see some sleepy faces, so I need a very loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Don't let the far right make you sleep. So what's our role? Our role, identify and support positive voices of unity. And what do we mean by that? You know, there are voices, we've got to, that's why in the Q&A yesterday, I talked about hate and love and stuff like that. I'm not going to open this kind of worms here. But we've got to look for voices of peace and love. I know it sounds a bit of like a cliche, but it is true. We're going to find these voices. They don't need to be Muslim. Anyone who believes in peace and love will hold hands together and say, we are united against the far right. That's why I keep on saying, in the majalis I keep on saying, where are the non-Muslims here? Why are we so, as a community, not inclusive of other people and outside other communities? Where are the Hindus? Where are the Buddhists? Where are the Christians? Where are the Jews? Where are the atheists? Where are they? Why are they not sitting in the majlis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain? Why not? Right? Why not? Let's think about these things. Because if they share the same value, if they share the value of love and peace, then I'm all for it, mate. I'm all for it. I'll hold your hand and you'll support me, I'll support you. If there is an attack, a violent attack, an extremist attack against a temple, for example, I'll go and stand with them, solidarity with them. And if there's an attack on a mosque, they'll come and stand in solidarity with us. Why not? What's wrong with that? We become one unity against the far right. Remember the issue, my brothers and sisters, is that the far right are not just against Muslims. Yeah? They're against other fractions as well. They're against, they're much in support of Nazis. Right? They're against Jews as well. So therefore we can unite with certain communities so that we can become what? We can become a stronger force against the enemy. Yeah? We can't continue being like this. We live in a 21st century. We can't continue just being exclusive, us and no one else. We can't. We're going to open our doors. Let people in. Say you're more than welcome. Let them come in and hear the majlis of Abu Abdullah. There's been instances where the people have come in and they don't understand what the words are, but they actually start to cry. They start to cry for some reason. They just start to cry, right? They will understand, and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help, they will come with us hand to hand, united. This is what we need to do. We need to make a movement, a shift. We need to shift the community towards that. Because the threat is rising, my brothers and sisters. The threat is rising, and we cannot do it by ourselves. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need to become united with other communities. So, we actually identify and support positive voices. We help those messages reach a wide global audience and maximize the impact. And one example, I'd just like to give one example of a fantastic organization called Turn to Love, which I am part of, but unfortunately I haven't had much time to help. But there are individuals who give so much time to this. And I'm going to show you what they have done in the last few years. So, for example, the Finsbury Park attack, okay? They did a rapid response, a vigil they did, a day of attack, and they, hashtag for London. So they did all these particular newspapers, channels, they came in, they had these posters with a heart sign, right? And they said, turn to love. It's such a basic message. But we as Muslims, like a muhajjaba goes there, stands there, turn to love. Yes, let's turn to love. This sends out a powerful message to the world. And it was powerful, right? United against all terror. United against all terror. With a heart sign. Yes, that's beautiful. That's love, right? And they reached more than 15 million views in their different social media and YouTube and TVs and everything else. What about the Manchester attack? That you guys were here, right? How many of you participated in this attack? The local Muslim community unites, turn to love. They had more than 70 million views, right? They went out and they did the sign of a love sign. They went out on demonstrations, united with the police, with other people, right? And all these particular newspapers and channels and websites and stuff, they took all these pictures and put them on front pages. This is what we need to do, yeah. London Bridge attack, they did very similar. Look, a muhajjaba holding this, more united than ever. There's nothing Islam about it, but her hijab speaks 1,000 words. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, كونوا لنا دعاة صامتين بغير ألسنتكم. Become individuals who call for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without speaking. What does that mean? It means if I come with a smile, it means if I dress appropriately, it means the sisters who wear a beautiful hijab. This is the dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? So this is reaching a wide range of people. But what I do say also, this is a bit of a reactionist thing. When something happens, I'm going to go and do it. Although they're very prepared. Now turn to love. I'm on this WhatsApp group with them. And they're very prepared. La samahallah, God forbid, if something happens, they quickly will go on the same day, print posters. They do this in minutes, right? And they're very efficient in doing it. And we need people like them. But we also need to be what? We need to be more proactive and not reactionists. And being proactive means we read the situation very well. And this is what we're doing now. We're trying to raise awareness. We're trying to think of the future. We're trying to think of our children. In 20 years' time, is the far right going to rise and rise and rise? What is going to be the state of the Muslims in the UK in 20 years' time? With the rise of the Brexit party and the rise of Boris Johnson and the other clown. I don't want to mention his name here, right? What are we going to do about it? So we need to be more proactive. We need to think strategically on what we're going to do. But I'm going to end today, inshallah, my brothers and sisters, with explaining something that is I'm really passionate about this, okay? Which I think what's happened is, so I'll tell you about the concept. The concept also is we need to educate the public about the misconceptions or the misinformation that is being given by the media about our religion. If I come now and say, I am a jihadist, what do people think? Huh? I'm a terrorist, right? But then again, if you think about it, they've actually they've hijacked the beautiful concept of jihad. We've lost the concept of jihad. Are you aware of this, O community of Manchester? Are you aware that your concept, which is what? Which is part of furu' al-deen, which is branches of Islam, is part of one of the branches of Islam. Furu' al-deen is jihad. Is being taken over, is being hijacked completely by the West. You can't say, I do jihad. They say, oh, you're a jihadist. You're a Daeshi. Yes, am I right or wrong? Yeah? What are we doing about it? We gotta educate individuals, gotta educate people about what is the concept of jihad. You've misunderstood it, guys. We'll tell them, you've misunderstood it. This is not what you think it is. The media have tricked you. Even at work, if I sit down and say, well, guys, no, it's not really true. This is what it is. Yeah? Let's just go through in the next 5 minutes, inshallah, and let's just go through this particular concept. And I just hope, again, I emphasize about bringing a piece of paper, mobile phones, write notes and things like that. I don't want to stand here and just do this verbal diarrhea and everyone goes back home. Please, I'll think a waste of time. I want to go back home to my kids. I'm not joking, okay? I'm not here for anything else. I'm here to shake the community. I'm here together so we can do some work. We can do effective work in the community to raise awareness. Okay? So when we talk about these things, let's not take it lightly and say, yeah, well, IUS will do it. No. IUS have limited resources. You are part of the community. Stand up and do something. Be a Hussaini. Let's understand, let's explain what jihad means. Okay? And I'm going to give you in a very few sentences what is jihad and jihad in the Quran. The root word of the jihad comes from juhud, which means taking extraordinary pains to achieve a goal. Okay? The word jihad in Arabic, the ism, the noun, yes, means struggle or resist. You all know this, right? But you need to explain it in the best way, right? It's a struggle or resist. When the Holy Quran talks about war and fighting, you got to tell these people, when the Quran talks about war and fighting, it doesn't use the word jihad, mate. It uses what? Qital. This is what it uses. Yeah? وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. It uses qital, it doesn't use jihad. You got to understand that. In the Holy Quran, for example, we've got jihadun nafs, the inner struggle, and that's the biggest of jihad. When you've heard about the narration when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. When the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he came back from a particular battle and he said, Alhamdulillah, we have finished the jihadul asghar. And they told him the minor jihad. And they said, what is the major jihad, O Prophet? He said, jihadul akbar. It's jihadun nafs, yeah, the inner struggle. When we look at the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 22, remember these things, yeah? Verse 78, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. And this is, the interpreters say, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. I want you to strive really hard in the way of Allah through your nafs, because this is the real jihad that's happening. It's inside me. So much battles going on between me and the shaitan, and should I do this, should I do not? It's a battle, isn't there? It's a war inside us. Let's win this battle as well. Yeah? But what we're talking about here is the concept of jihad. Explain this to them. Tell them that for us, this is the most important thing. It's inside. There's also da'wah jihad. Okay, where we jihad to teach Quran, jihad to teach jurisprudence. This is a beautiful verse. Did you know this? That in chapter 25, verse 52, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَا تُطِعِ الْكَافِرِينَ. Don't follow the kafirin, the disbelievers. وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. What does that mean? Go fight them? No. It means go and teach them through the Quran. Do jihad through the Quran. Yeah. Do the jihad through the Quran. Yes? Bihi jihadan kabira. It's mighty jihad. Teach them jurisprudence. Teach them about our Islamic akhlaq. Do jihad in your workplace. My God, if they take that sentence and chop it. But instead, if you really want to use it, use Salafist jihadists instead of jihad. And try to quote this individual. He's not a Muslim, right? And say these terms were first coined by academic scholar Giles Kipling in 2002. The jihad thing, right? And then they came up with Salafist jihadist. And this is, you got to explain this to people. You say that, the Salafists, they see there is a world, Darul Harb, yeah? You know this, Darul Harb and Darul Islam. And they live now in which Dar? Darul Harb, so therefore they must do jihad, what they think is military jihad. Of course, there is in the Quran that talks about military jihad, absolutely, where you struggle. But this is all, but then when you talk about this, this is a whole lecture, but when you talk about this, Islam talks about qital, and 4 times in the Quran, it's all about what? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives permission to those individuals to go and fight because they've been oppressed. Yeah? When we are oppressed, of course we gotta fight. Or you're just going to let people in? Yeah? This is our jihad. The jihad that is happening by the mujahideen or stuff like that all around the world is struggling against what? Against oppression. Yeah? And of course, I don't mean mujahideen as Daesh. We're absolutely against Daesh and absolutely against the ideology of Salafists, right? So if you want to go and explain that, just say Salafist jihadists rather than just say jihadists. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So in conclusion, my brothers and sisters, what we've done today is we've talked about the far right. Far right are the extreme nationalists, fascists, they're racist. They're a threat to the Muslims. They are on the rise in the UK. Their tactics is similar to Daesh, use of social media. And our role is to support voices of unity, okay? As we spoke about this in depth. Need to be more proactive, and let's try to educate the public on misconceptions. And as Hussainis, my brothers and sisters, as these days we remember the martyrdom of Imam Hussain. And of course, he was someone who preached for jihadun nafs, didn't it? Right? When Zainab alayhi salam came out and said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, she didn't see all this bloodshed and she didn't see all that hatred going on between the individuals. She didn't see these oppositions as those people who are the enemy. No, she actually saw what is beautiful out there, which is she saw the haqq beating the batil. Right? What we need to do as Hussainis in the community is we need to strive towards trying to beat or trying to strive against those individuals who spread falsehood. And honestly, for us as Muslims, as the community, is so that we can try to understand what is justice and what is falsehood, because we've been given this treasure, we've been given this gem of Al-Hussain alayhi salam, inshallah. So inshallah, with your permission, we can gain a momentum in this community to try to strive towards doing something against this particular movement, coming together in united, not just as Muslims, but other people who also share the same values as us, to try to combat this particular toxic movement. Inshallah, we will now listen to the Musayib, try to participate again, try to shed a tear or two, remembering this great individual, this gem that we have, Aba Abdullah al-Hussain, who also fought for us to sit down here and actually come to think about the problems in our community. And he expects us, and Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif expects us to actually do something as a community. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لكم. We welcome Brother Sayyid Ali Al-Hakim with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.